give me an example of the product you are proud of. And the way you answer that question, you talk about the vision, you talk about the mission of the company, you talk about these are the outcomes I was trying to achieve, these are the strategy, these are the challenges I had. So the way the person answer gives me a sense like how much the strong product management they can do in my company.
Welcome to Product Side Stories, the podcast where we reveal the very real and raw lessons learned from product leaders and thinkers all over the world. I'm your host, Rena Lexon, CEO of Product Side. Let's dive into today's episode. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Product Side Stories. Today, I'm talking with Prachi Garg, who I met in a UK product event, and we're going to be discussing the very, very, very real problems around hiring great product managers, mentoring them to success, and making some decisions. So, Prachi, I think I have your background here. You were a product manager at Expedia, at Amazon, and most recently, you were the SVP of product at Collinson, which is the firm that backs the Priority Pass. I am a frequent user of the Priority Pass, so thank you. Thank you. Why don't you maybe quickly introduce yourself and tell us why you got into product management?
Thank you, Rina, and hi everyone. It's my pleasure to be on this podcast. Yeah, so a little bit about me. I have around 20 plus years of experience in product and technology. Was quite lucky and I would say fortunate enough to work in big tech companies like Amazon, Expedia, Skyscanner, which helped me to learn product management quite deeply and helped me to be a better product leader and also give and mentor coach other product people to be a better product leader. In my in my for the last few years, I've been working as a product leadership roles, and the last role was senior VP of consumer and partnership, where my focus was to build connected travel experiences across airport and reduce all the anxiety and stress people are having in airport during access, lounges, duty-free shopping. So it was quite fascinating. And yes, and I'm here. To answer your question, why I decided to join product management. It's a very I don't know, it's by chance or by luck or what. So I feel like I was one of the legacy product manager who became a product manager in 2012, around 12 years back, when the product management concept did not exist in many countries, many companies. After finishing my MBA, I tried to start my own company and worked in startups, very early stages startups with founders directly. And then I realized that I want to pursue my career in either as a founder or either as a role which helps me a visibility of all the ecosystem of a business so that I can see how to build new products, help grow consumers, convert them, retain them, and how can I take the business from A to B. And then I started reading about product management. That time we didn't have many resources. Nowadays, after 12 years, there are so many resources about product management. But that time, hardly any few books you have. I started reading. There was a I don't know if you remember. There were courses like product marketing courses. There were these type of courses exist at that time. So yeah, I started thinking about it, and then I was lucky to get my first product role in a very small company, family-owned business, LiveX. This was fine wine trading company, and and my manager was one of the amazing manager I worked for. He trusted in me, gave me the whole product management role, and that's how my journey to product management started. And then since then, because I was always very curious, always learning new things, I stepped into a senior PM role at Expedia, then Amazon, then my career keep moving into product management in tech companies. And I was quite curious to learn how you actually build products at scale and how you make an impact in millions of customers. And that's how I was learning quite a lot during early stages of my career.
So it sounds like you went the entrepreneurial route, and many entrepreneurs are heads of product. You have to care about the business, we have to care about the customers. And you grew in your career, you also made the change, which not every product manager should or does, of going into product leadership roles. So can you talk to me about, why did you end up not just doing the individual contributor work, which is caring about the business, caring about the customers, figuring out how a product can scale to a market, but also managing others? Why manage others?
Yeah. Uh, Again, that's a very interesting question to me because if you have asked me this question like 10 years back, I was kind of person, I was like, I am least interested in managing people and I will continue growing my career as an IC. And suddenly, almost like 7 to 8 years, I got into mentorship and coaching. And as soon as I started coaching and mentoring many people and many product managers, I felt like I could be someone who can be a manager or a coach or a leader who can help the team to get into better product management. I still mentor a lot of people within women in product as well as some people in the US. So it really helped me to build my skills. And when I started mentoring, I realized that you learn a lot with every person you talk to. So every person I give it advice or coach, I learn new things from that person. And then that's the one aspect of it. Second aspect of it is feel like I started as an individual contributor as a product manager. You're quite deep into the product you're building. But as I was growing, I started thinking about I wanted to see and make a change impact in a big strategy. I wanted to see the picture from a from a 50 feet high and then build a strategy. So I was getting quite interested in building company level product strategy, and that's how I keep transitioning into a director and VP because I was doing those roles and getting promoted or getting into the new roles. And so that's how I feel like my journey moved from individual to management to a leader to a strategist.
Yeah, well, so when you end up in those roles, when you are a leader and you're doing the strategy, you still have to, like you're saying, coach and mentor your product managers into doing great work. Can you think about a product manager that you worked with who you really invested a lot of time and energy and mentorship to because they were doing such a great job?
Yeah, I can talk about a person in my last company, and he's one of the very curious very curious person, and I feel like the product manager who are very curious, they can make a very good product manager. And uh, and if I think about when I think of a product management skills, I try to group them into few criteria. So first criteria for me, like product strategy, like how they are thinking about the vision, how they're thinking about the how thinking big and start small. Like what is their strategy look like? What is their roadmap look like? And the second criteria, I look at stakeholder management. How good are the person is managing stakeholder management, because product managers most of the time is negotiating or taking the decision making with the stakeholders, managing those relationships. And third thing, I look at the execution skill, which means like how comfortably you can work with your engineers to get that product to launch. And fourth one is more around your data analytical skills, which helps product manager to understand the qualitative and quantitative, so that they can understand the problem deeper. Also, they can understand the opportunity and how can they connect the opportunity to the business KPI. So this understanding of data and execution, and along with the execution, help them to build a product which you can measure. So this person, when I look at that four skills, he is quite, I would say, quite perfect, not a I mean, quite good in those skills. And and that's what I can see. And he was very curious. So the person has quite appetite of learning and have those basic skills to learn. And that's how I started thinking about what is yours, how is that person's strategy skills, how what type of mentoring coaching that person needs to, does he need only mentoring coaching, does he need some practice, you need to give them some real work so that they can practice, they can present, they can get visibility. So start taking that person in in the leadership meeting, so that that person get visibility of the things, how the things that happen at the SLT level. And similarly, there, if there are gaps, like in, like for example, in there's a gap in data or analytical skills, so understanding those gaps and identifying those tools which can help that gaps. For example, if the person doesn't have a SQL skills, I'm just telling it. So providing that kind of training on learning SQL so that they can run their queries and they can understand
Mhm.
the data better. So it's very how would I say, dependent on the person and also dependent on the company, what the company needs are, what is the product management skills needs are, and what are the
Yeah.
things the person is the strengths and weaknesses are, and uh, and how can we help strengthen the weaknesses so that they can help build products which can achieve business outcomes.
So, Prachi, I heard you say, and I've heard this from other product leaders before around the importance of being curious, but I feel like curious, it means so much. Curious in what way? Do you mean in terms of making sure that they are always trying to ask open ended questions because they want to test assumptions, that they're very good at hypotheses? Like, what does curious mean to you?
Yeah, I give you an example. So curious means to me they can actually swim in ambiguity. So product management is all about ambiguity. And if there is a lot of ambiguity, let's say I come to you, I join this company and I ask my product manager, tell me what this product look like in next 10 years. So that's a lot of ambiguity dependent on so many factors. So curiosity is more around under swim in ambiguity, understand what are the what how can we make this 10-year roadmap, curious about the things happening in the market, curious about the things what how the company makes businesses, curious about the competition, curious about what's the ways of working. So curious about so many things which can help the person to grow that product to the next generation level in next 10 years. So that's about the curiosity I think about. It's also include, as you said, open-ended questions. So ask as many questions, understand it better. If they're not clear about how the business makes revenue, where the margin coming from, and what are the challenges business are having, talk to CEO, understand more about it. If they don't understand about customers, talk to customer and understand what problems they are having. So there's no end to it. If they are not curious, I feel like if you're not curious as a product manager, you just take it what someone tells you and you don't challenge it.
So, from what I'm hearing from you essentially is that product managers have to make there's so many different data sources, there's so many decisions that they have to make, and so being curious for you means trying to really get to the truth, right? So they're not taking truth as is; they're questioning it and challenging it.
And a little bit more. So it's like peeling an onion. So keep layering out and be curious what is there inside. Going deep into
Okay,
that space. So when we used to write PR FAQ in Amazon, and if you that's what I was thinking. If you write FAQs, we used to write FAQs in Amazon and press release and FAQs. When you start writing one question, you start and you write something and then you start, if you're curious, you start thinking about why is this happening, then you write another question, why is this happening. So that's, if you're not curious, you finish in that in like three questions. But if you're quite
yeah.
curious, you keep digging into more. That's what I feel like
So,
about curiosity.
so how do you test for that in an interview?
That's a very interesting question. I think that's when I look for interview, I is more of an observation rather than a test. So there are so many questions which you observe during an interview. You interview for behavior questions, you interview for technical, and based on the answers, uh, I actually have a gut feeling because I have interviewed more than 200 interviews in my life. So now I reach to a point when I have a gut feeling where the person has a curiosity. And one thing,
But no, I'm not letting you get away with that. A gut feeling.
and
Okay, so
yeah, one thing I ask normally,
yeah,
which also helps me. So, and when I leave 15 minutes in the end, and I ask the person, "Do you have any questions for me?"
sure.
if someone is very curious about the role, if someone is very curious about the company growth, trajectory, ways of working, because that's how you are stepping your feet in. So depend the questions being asked to me actually gave me a little bit of sense that this person is quite curious and would like to know more. So yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. Okay, so basically, it's the quality of the questioning. I also, by the way, in interviewing at any role, I do pay attention to what questions they ask me, because if they only ask me two questions and they're the most basic, like what's the timeline for the role and who am I working for, I realize you don't really you haven't been curious about this position. So
Yeah.
I do like that. Yeah.
And I have kids. I have two 5-year-old twins, and I always compare. I mean, I don't know why, with my kids. Like they are very curious. They ask me everything. If like simple things, mommy, why are you doing this, and why this, why this, and that's how I feel like, because that's how they're learning, and that's also curiosity gives them to learning. The way I explain it to them, they're building their knowledge on top of that every time.
Okay. So and definitely kids asking why. We need to bring that inner child out more. I am with you. So, okay, so you said you've interviewed at least 200 people and now you have a gut feel. That's what I'm not letting you get away. I want to understand now what, from your experience in interviewing people, what does that gut tell you? What signals are you looking for that tell you, hey, this might be a person that I could work with?
It's Let me take a step back. So when I hire for a product manager or a director level roles or a product manager, senior PM, it's very dependent on the company you work with. So not one size fits all, and not a one great product manager in one company is it would be a great product manager in another company, because every company requires some different skill set. I'm not talking about domain, I'm talking about the culture, the ways of working, the style, the stages of the company, whether it's a series A, whether it's a series B, whether it's a transformation. So every company requires some different aspects of it. So when I so just to repeat your question, so what skills do I test,
What
right?
signals? Like
What
what
signals?
tells you that, this is a person? So I hear on the curious, but you're saying you have gut feel sometimes
Yeah.
in interviews. And I get
Yeah.
it. It's because of pattern recognition, but what patterns are you looking for?
Yeah. So I have uh, basic structure or a structure in my mind that if I'm hiring for a product manager, these are the basic skills I'm looking for. And
Hmm.
for me, the basic skills are divided into soft skills and hard skills. And when I talk about soft skills, um, is more around one is very basic like communication, but second is more around the visionary, and third is customer mindset, and and the fourth, I think I look at the negotiation skills. So these are like very four soft skills I look at. And when I hard skills, I look at was product sense and execution skills. So the way I get a sense, so where, for example, if I'm asking a question to someone, tell me, Rina, give me an example of the product you are proud of. And the way you answer that question, if you tell me when you're proud of, you talk about the vision, you talk about the mission of the company, you talk about these are the outcomes I was trying to achieve, these are the strategy, these are the challenges I had with when I was working with engineering team, because we didn't have this whatever this design system ready, this architecture ready, what these things. So the way the person answered gives me a sense like how much the strong product management they can do in my company. On the
Yeah.
other hand, if someone talks about the same answer and someone talks about, oh, I launched X and Y product, that's it, that give me, I did in 5 days, and this is what the challenge is. So is I didn't get about the vision, I didn't the mission, the metrics, why are we doing it, what value it is having, what impact did you drive. So that kind of feeling you get. And the second, I mean, a lot of people don't like the case study, but sometimes case studies also gives a sense of because then you have more, because sometimes when you think about you're interviewing in person directly, they might not think about these aspects. But when you're doing a case study, you have time. And when you're not in- using the basic product management in that, that gives a sense, right? Okay, this is not maybe that needs some kind of more mentoring and coaching in product management.
Yeah, I also like to ask people for actual work examples. So it's not always available, right? Not everybody is able to redact some of their past company's work or has it if they've been let go, for example. But I really learn a lot from the type of work product
Yeah,
that they've done before. And this again, this is basic for just any role, right? Not just
yeah,
product. I also like to give some kind of, I guess, a homework assignment. I think
yeah,
maybe, I know case studies are a popular way to do it, but for me, what I'm interested in is not just the execution of the case study, but do they ask me questions when I give
yeah.
them, yeah, do they, because that's how they're going to work with me. If I give them a project and they instead don't ask me any questions about it, what are you looking for? Then that tells me when I work with them that they're not, they might go and take a project, run with it, and go in a completely wrong direction without checking their
Well, that's
assumptions.
I think that's a very good thing you just said to me that you like doing it because sometimes if you're on the other side, if you're interviewing for a role and if a hiring manager doesn't clarify that this is one of the criteria I am looking at how you work collaboratively with with the manager,
Mhm.
then the candidate might think that if they ask questions may not be a good thing. But on the other side, you are expecting that, right? You are expecting that collaboration. So I think that's a good learning for me as well. Or whenever I do that, I actually make very clear that this is what we are expecting. If maybe we can have a
Oh
15-minute.
no. So let's talk about that because I think what you're saying is if from an interviewee perspective, if I don't quite understand a job or the assignment, then in my asking the question of the hiring manager, I may be putting myself at risk of
Yeah,
being somebody who doesn't understand. But
yeah,
I understand that it is risky, but it's also risky on the job.
yeah. Exactly. But that's a mindset. That's what I'm saying. That's your
Mhm.
mindset. And if you're not clear to that candidate, what I'm expecting is a collaboration in this.
Mm,
And
mhm.
so it's like that. And I read a book recently. I don't know what was the book name. Ugh, I forgot. And it talks about the um, assumptions. Then I think it's a crucial conversation. So it talks
Okay.
about the assumptions, like we assume a lot of things and we're not very clear even in the daily job. We assume a lot of things. We are not very clear with the stakeholders what we are expecting, what's our motivations are, why are we behaving the way we are behaving, and it leads to a lot of conflicts. And similarly, I feel like we as a hiring manager we sometimes made assumptions, and it's a continuous learning process how to be a better hiring manager. and and that's the thing, I think, how open and clear with your candidate that that's what we are expecting, that's what we,
I
and
see what you're
how,
saying. Yeah. I think that, that is fair. So you want to, take into account the different psychology because what you care about is the outcome, is how is this
exactly.
person going to collaborate with me? So you don't need to trip them up, right,
Yeah,
by
exactly.
expecting it. Though, yeah. So I think that's fair. I also think that on the job that this is also important in terms of being clear with someone when
Yeah,
things are not going well. And I think a lot of people actually struggle having crucial conversations. That's what that book is about.
yeah.
With
Have you read it?
people. Yeah. Uh, it is a really, really valuable book because a lot, I'm saying, this is something that nobody likes having the most valuable conversations when they are not fun because they're not
Yeah,
fun sometimes to have these negative negative in a way conversations if you have that mindset of this is bad. But these are some of the most important, valuable, beneficial conversations for people to have earlier when things are not working. because I always like to say there's no such thing as bad news told me, except news told me too late when I
Yeah,
can't do anything about it. And so the more we can be safe and have brave, courageous conversations earlier, I think the better everybody is.
I agree, 100% agree. I mean, and I think there's always, we say, right, the bad news before the good news. So it's better to know what's not working
Yep.
so that you can solve it better. Yeah.
Yeah. So have you, at what point, you as a leader, I'm sure, and, I've been in these situations, often because we hire people, we try to create great interview processes where we're managing the risk of hiring the wrong person. I find that once you bring somebody on board, even if you want to, fail fast, and in this case, fire fast, there are over time, the connections in the company increase. So the things that person is responsible for, the knowledge that you're investing in them, the relationships that they're having with everybody else, that increases the cost of making a decision to let someone go. So it becomes actually really hard sometimes to hire slow and fail fast or fire fast. Uh, at what point or how do you make the decision of, hey, this person's just not performing or this is not working, where we haven't gotten to the outcomes we thought we would from working together? How do you make that decision, and any learnings that you have had in your career in terms of making those decisions faster? Because that's a common problem.
Yeah. And you're right. I mean, yes, I have gone through the situation and I think it's hard because sometimes you need to be fair, and
Yep.
there's a very thin line being fair and being being understanding that the person is not performing, right? So imagine if you end up going to mishire, 3 months is quite 3 months, like very short period of time that, and the person has to ramp up, person has to understand, build relationship, and also perform, right? So if you think about 3 to 6 months time in many companies, they are very, it's a steep learning curve for many people, and it's very hard for a hiring manager to take that decision. It's very difficult. So yeah, so I think I have had this type of situation, and one thing what I do when I hire anyone, I work with them. I mean, I like to know what their 30, 60, 90-day plan from them rather than me giving anything. So it gives me and if I have something different, I try to incorporate that. So once I have a visibility of that 30, 60, 90-day plan, whatever it is, so I agree. And so that's the one thing to see, like how they're performing against their goals. And second thing I look at that I do a lot of feedback sessions with me with that person, as well as stakeholder feedback, like how that person, as you said, that they have to build relationships, stakeholder management, and how they're getting the feedback from these people also gives a little bit of sense that how that person is working with stakeholders. And also what I do is, like, in 3 months period, I like to see some small impact that person would have made, either in the product, either in the any impact. It could be anything, either in like building any new processes, launching a new product, or maybe some kind of very uh, good feedback from any stakeholder. Like, so
Mhm.
these are the things. So these are the things I collect. So I invest a lot of time in first 3 months to understand the person, culture, skills, performance, and if there are a lot of red flags. So uh, let's say if there are like 90% of red flags where the like person is not performing, but a person is not working well with stakeholders, a lot of complaints from the stakeholders, not focusing on data, not focusing on strategy, not a lot of things. And then there's a discussion seeing that whether what's happening, and then having that hard conversation to understand more, and then collect a little bit more feedback from for about that person from team, the external team, and also and give some time frame, like this is not working well with direction, maybe a week, 2 weeks or 3 weeks time. And if it doesn't work well, then you take a hard decision to let go.
Yeah. I see a very consistent way of how you think about product managers. It sounded like from the beginning you were saying in terms of hiring them based on these four components. What was it? The strategy, the vision, the data, the execution
Yes.
portion. I think I'm missing one. And then you're
Stakeholder management. Yeah.
of course, stakeholder management. So those are the four, and you just mentioned the four categories again
Yeah.
around, hey, if you're not good at the strategy vision, if you don't understand the data, you're not executing, your stakeholders are complaining about you. This obviously does not match your expectations. So the outcome that
Yeah.
you're expecting does not match. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You're very consistent. So I'll definitely
Oh, I
interested to
am.
use it. Yeah, yeah, you have a framework. Uh, okay, well,
I write
Prachi,
it down because I always think sometimes I'm not consistent.
well, you could definitely. I mean, you could take this recording and take the snippet. So, Prachi, for those product managers who are currently interested in maybe they're interviewing or they're looking for a promotion to director type role, what advice do you have for them?
I think my advice is to learn from the best leaders and understand how they are doing, how what they are doing. Maybe try to talk to a lot of people in different companies. Like if you, for example, I like Netflix ways of working, and so I talk to a lot of people in Netflix and how they do product management. So it's more about, and again, you will say that Prachi, going back to curious, is about being curious, see how products are being built in different companies, what they do differently, and so that's a message for a product manager. Try to learn the best way of building product faster and making an impact in customers' life, and also drive your business KPIs. For the directors and the managers, I would say being more, I think nowadays what I'm seeing is that there, as you see, the market is really bad. There's a lot of cost pressure. There are not many hiring happening. So there's a lot of stress in everyone to deliver. So as a manager, being more empathetic, and that's another core trait I would say product managers should have, that being more empathetic with your team and help them and mentor them and coach them to learn and grow and see how can you work together to make an impact for the company and the customer. So that's what I was saying. That's how everything will start falling in place if you build a strong team.
You're saying that it's not just the skills that we should be focusing on, even though we talked a lot about skills, but it's the culture around it and how a team collaborates. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Prachi, how can our listeners follow you after this recording?
Oh, they can follow me. I maybe on LinkedIn, so you can post my LinkedIn profile. I actually sometimes do mentoring as well on a platform called Meander. It's in UK, and yeah, and if you want to talk to me, I might open a link in my LinkedIn to book an appointment, so you can book an appointment with me.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Prachi. Thanks for joining us today and discussing the real hard truths about product leadership. Uh,
Thank you, everyone, and I really enjoyed talking to you, Rena. Thank you, and thank you, everyone, for listening to me.
Thanks, Prachi.
Thanks.
Bye.
Have a nice day. Bye.
Thank you for tuning into Product Side Stories. I hope today's insights inspire you and propel your product journey forward. Remember, every challenge is a lesson waiting to be learned. And you can also visit us at productside.com for more free resources like webinars, templates, playbooks, and other product wisdom repackaged for you. I'm Rena Lexon, and until next time, keep innovating, keep leading, and keep creating stories worth sharing.